Everyone thought he was a weak human, but he becomes the strongest magician in the demon army. Ike was a magician in the demon army, who has shown such extreme strength and skills that he got promoted to the rank of commander, letting him lead his troops on the battlefield as he strategizes how to take down the impregnable fort of Arsenam. On the battlefield, humans and monsters kill each other by the thousands, trying to fight for superiority over the other race, while Ike stands on a cliff and witnesses the massacre on the ground. After a long struggle, they somehow manage to break through the main gate of the castle and enter inside. But the humans do not back off and fight valiantly, giving their lives in order to defend their castle. The Lord Commander of the humans watches from his windows, safe inside the castle as the battle unfolds, when suddenly Ike decides to pay him a visit as he doesn't want so many lives to be lost. The commander turns around and immediately recognizes Ike because his tales are told everywhere. Ike confirms that he is the leader of the 7th Legion of the Demon King Army, known as the Immortal Brigade, and gives the commander 3 future options. He can calmly surrender and become a prisoner of war. He can game end himself to save his honor. Or if he doesn't have any honor, he can simply climb up the window and run away. The commander smirks and says he refuses to choose any of the options given by a scum who is a traitor to his own race, rushing forward with his sword to attack. But it is of no use, as with a simple swipe of his wand, Ike knocks him out cold on the floor. Suddenly, his personal assistant Pig appears and asks what needs to be done about the prisoners of war. Ike turns around and tells him to heal the commander and anyone who surrenders without a fight, shocking Pig as well as a mysteriously hot woman who watches him from a crystal ball, impressed by how he captured such an important castle with a single brigade. Ike then puts a magical barrier around the entire area so no one can enter the battlefield anymore, while he looks outside to see countless human casualties and injuries being treated by the demons. He feels bad to see these atrocities unfold and never liked the way of war. But he has no other choice but to fight on endlessly, since he himself is not a demon but a human wearing a demon mask. It turns out that he was abandoned at birth, but a demon magician named Rom took him in on a whim. Rom was an amazing magician and an amazing teacher who always talked about a time when both humans and demons could live together. Rom taught Ike everything he knew about magic, and before his death, he called Ike to his chamber, telling him to always keep the mask and the robe on, as if the Demon King knew he was not a demon, he would be tortured and killed immediately. Ike sits down on the chair to relax, putting a magic field around the room so no one could enter without his permission. But suddenly he notices a trembling maid beneath the table, who immediately starts apologizing and crying, claiming that she didn't see anything. She hits her own head on the table and gets knocked out, while Ike wonders how to deal with this problem, deciding to think about it later as Pig calls him outside. As they wander through the streets witnessing the destruction caused by the war, Pig asks Ike why they spare so many humans. Ike curtly replies that the current Demon King only cares about the results and not how they achieve them. But Pig claims that many demons think Ike is too easy on the humans and it would be better to kill all the residents and set the streets on fire. Ike refuses, explaining that they need humans to pay taxes as war is not cheap and that Arsenam is a trade city, so humans are needed to manage that. Pig struggles to understand when Ike suddenly stops as a group of humans approaches him. Pig warns them to back off, but Ike tells them to speak. One of the residents asks how much more tax they will have to pay the demon army, and to their surprise, Ike says the taxes will remain the same, which makes them happy. But he warns them that if they try to oppose the army, they will be punished. While speaking, Ike suddenly disappears in a bright light, surprising Pig. Ike finds himself in a dark dungeon and is immediately attacked by a giant monster. He dodges the blow and runs, shouting at the mysterious woman not to call him like this. The demon keeps attacking, so he pulls a wand and uses a special magic attack to kill the demon, which we can't see because the editors forgot to increase the brightness. The woman appears beside him, claiming he was just a kid who used to hide behind Rom the last time she saw him. She notes the golem was strong, indicating Ike's growth in power. The woman, Saphiro, is Ike's superior and the only demon who knows his secret. She tells him not to worry about being summoned abruptly, saying it's more fun that way. Ike asks if he is here to report on the war efforts, but Saphiro says she saw everything and his execution was flawless. She reveals that the Demon King wants to meet him, which surprises Ike, as a Demon King wouldn't typically need to meet a mere brigade leader. He asks what the catch is, but Saphiro says the king is interested in how he managed to take Arsenam in a week. She teleports them to the Demon King's castle, which impresses Ike with its size. They approach the main gate guarded by demons, and Ike asks Seth if he will be checked before entering. Seth replies that the Demon King is the most important person in their world, so everyone is checked. Ike is nervous about revealing his identity, but the guards are overwhelmed by his magic aura and let them through, acknowledging him as Rom's grandson. They walk through the hallway, with Seth flying beside him, and Ike thinks about how he is not as good at flying as she is. They reach the courtroom entrance, where Seth tells him to wait. While waiting, Ike thinks about the Demon King, Darrow, known for competence and ruthlessness. The humans were winning the war until Darrow changed everything in a single battle. Darrow is ruthless to incompetence, but rewards talent and competence, regardless of nobility. Seth returns and calls Ike inside. He enters with his head bowed, but is shocked to see a girl on the throne. Initially thinking she is the Demon King's daughter, he quickly realizes she is Darrow and bows down. Darrow is impressed by his quick capture of Arsenam and questions his reluctance to kill humans unnecessarily. Ike argues that fear doesn't breed loyalty and competent leadership will earn human support. Darrow, intrigued, teleports in front of Ike and demands to see his true face before leaving. Terrified, Ike sighs in relief and learns he will rule over Arsenam as a reward. Back in Arsenam, Ike finds the maid, Sadie, awake and apologizing. He assures her safety and appoints her as his personal maid, promising to keep her secret. Touring the damaged city, Ike realizes the defenses need urgent repair. Pig estimates 6 months, but Ike insists on 1 month, organizing a joint effort between humans and demons to work around the clock. Pig, witnessing Ike's genius and effective leadership, is moved to tears, hoping Ike might one day become the Demon King. Some time passes by when one day Ike gets the news that the Demon King has decided to put him in charge of getting information about a probable alliance being formed by the human kingdoms. Because during the last battle, the demons faced a sizable human army which can't be of a single kingdom alone. Sadie seems to have gotten quite comfortable with him now, as he decides to take her alongside him to the nearby kingdom for some reconnaissance. While there, Sadie ends up getting distracted by a trickster, but Ike reveals that the trickster is running a scam before taking Sadie away. While walking, they munch on some fruits, and Ike tells Sadie that he thinks that the humans are definitely forming an alliance at this point. Sadie seems confused, so Ike explains that whenever something life-threatening like the Demon King has emerged, the humans have set aside their differences and joined the forces of all the human kingdoms together to fight against their common enemy. According to Ike, this alliance has been made 3 times in history, and every single time, the alliance was able to defeat the Demon King army completely and managed to push them all the way back to their castle. She asks whether the humans will win this time as well, which confused Ike as Sadie should root for the humans, but she replies that the humans have never been nice to her and made her a slave. If the demon army never invaded, she would have been like the other slave children in the cage forever. Ike realizes how cruel every single society is and reassures Sadie that the current Demon King is the wisest and the strongest in several centuries. Before they could talk more, however, a voice stops them, and when Ike turns around, he spots the trickster alongside a fat goon, shouting at him for revealing his tricks. Ike tells him that he was running a scam and not a trick, but the trickster gets mad and tells him that he will have to pay for what he did. This annoys Ike, who looks around to check whether anyone is around before pulling out his magic wand and using ice magic to freeze Fatty's feet. The trickster is shocked to see that Ike is a magician, but before he could react, Ike creates a bunch of icy spears and aims it towards the trickster, telling him to apologize. The trickster thinks Ike is bluffing and starts cussing him out, but Ike stabs him with one of the spears in his arm, showing that he means business. After that, he asks the trickster whether he has any information about the happenings in this kingdom, and fearing for his life, the trickster reveals that the alliance had been made between the kingdoms, but the kingdom of Rosaria is planning a surprise attack on the demons to get an advantage and a chance at glory. Ike thinks that it makes perfect sense and asks the trickster where they are planning their attack. For some reason, this scummy trickster knows all the details about the war plans and tells him that the city of Arsenam will be attacked because its defenses are weak right now. Ike heard all he wanted to know and left alongside Sadie back to their city to plan the defense. That evening, the army of Rosaria sends a battalion to invade the city of Arsenam, but before they could even ready their siege weapons, skeletons start popping out of the ground. Their leader, named Alice, tells them to maintain the formation as skeletons are weak, but unbeknownst to them, they walk straight into an ambush as arrows start falling on them like hailfire, while a bunch of orcs exit from the jungle and start smashing their army. Ollie's realizes that Arsenal was prepared for this attack and that they have walked into a trap which might destroy the entire battalion. She immediately calls her soldiers to form a retreating line and make sure no one gets left behind. While this was happening, Ike and Piggy were watching this unfold from the walls as Lord Piggy praises Ike because without him they would have definitely fallen for a surprise attack. Before Ike could ever reply though, someone shoots an arrow from behind which hits Ike in the back, and he falls over to the ground, unconscious. When he regains consciousness, he finds himself in bed with Saphiro, who claims that she was called by the Piggy after Ike got hit, and she was able to quickly heal him, otherwise he could have died. She congratulates him on crushing the surprise attack, but tells Ike that even this time the human casualties were bare minimum. She tells him that the Demon Lord might get suspicious if this keeps happening, but Ike replies that no matter what, his primary goal is to make this world suitable for both humans and the demons to live together just like Rom imagined. She tells him to take care and disappears while he calls in the Piggy and tells him to figure out what happened to the commander of the human forces. The Piggy replies that the commander ended up getting imprisoned by her senior officer, who claimed that she was a disgrace as she retreated from the battlefield. The next morning, Ike decides to head over to the prison where she was kept as he wanted to meet her once, but he ends up getting followed by Lily, who is his underling but way too annoying for him. He tells her to stay silent or go away, but she stays by his side as they spy on the few guards in front of the prison. She asks whether she should destroy the two men so he can go inside, but Ike responds that he doesn't want to create a scene right now. Before he could stop her though, that imbecile went ahead and beat the shit out of the guards, claiming that she didn't kill them just as he wanted. They enter inside the prison, which turns out to be bigger than he imagined, and he realizes that it will take much more time to find the commander. But Lily ends up beating the information out of one of the guards, who tell her that the commander is on the top floor and even gives the keys. While they were moving towards the stairs, some other guards get alerted and attack them. But Lily hands the keys over to Ike and tells him to move ahead while she deals with them. Ike moves ahead and turns back to watch the guards getting demolished, but keeps moving forward. Soon he reaches the top floor and opens the cell only to find it completely empty. He enters inside when suddenly the commander attacks him from behind, which he barely dodges. She grabs a knife and starts attacking him again, but he somehow manages to slip by and takes out his staff before knocking her down to the floor. He lets her get up while she asks him whether he came here to laugh at her for losing or if he wants to kill her. But Ike replies that he only jabbered to know whether she sent an assassin to infiltrate Arsenal and kill him. The woman looks surprised and asks him whether he is actually a jabber, which catches Ike off guard. Suddenly his thoughts are broken by the sound of guard rushing to the top floor, and Freedom jabber advantage of his distraction and puts a knife to his throat, asking him to tell honestly whether he is a demon or a human. Ike has no idea what to do as he contemplates if he should gibber his true identity or not. She keeps the knife on his neck and asks him once again to reveal truthfully whether he is a human or a demon, while the guards start scattering all around the prison to find Ike and put an end to him. Ike realizes that he needs to do something before he gets into trouble, so he uses a special magic, which slows the time around him. This surprises Ollie's, who immediately realizes that something is wrong, but he tells her not to worry, as it will wear off soon. He casually walks past her and towards the guards walking in slow motion, who doesn't seem to be moving aside, so he uses his black wind magic to immediately blow him away. Before he could move though, he gets attacked from behind by a large knight carrying a morning star in his hand. The fat knight misses the swing as Ike masterfully sidesteps him, and before the knight could regain his balance, Ike uses a gravity spell from his arsenal, which forces him down to the ground before the ramp breaks under the weight and falls down to the ground. Ollie seems confused as she wonders why this man is not killing the guards when he can easily do that, when suddenly the ground beneath her feet also collapses, and unable to move, she ends up falling down as well. Thankfully for her, Ike saves her life by grabbing her mid-air before dropping her carefully on the floor. He then apologizes for all the mayhem and introduces himself as Ike, the commander of the Immortal Brigade, and answers her previous question by stating that he is obviously a demon, as humans are not allowed in the demon army. Ollie still doesn't seem satisfied, but Ike moves on and asks her once again whether she sent an assassin to kill him during their last battle. She holds her mouth shut, claiming that she is a knight of the kingdom and wouldn't reveal anything to a demon like him, even if he kills her. Ike decides to take matter into his own hands and performs a maneuver that he learnt from the Korean dramas. Instead of breathing on her face, he simply uses his mind-reading abilities to extract all the information that he needed and then tells Lily that their job here is done and prepares to leave. Alice calls him out, asking whether he simply came here to make fun of her. But he replies that all he wanted to know was whether she sent an assassin, and he now knows that she had nothing to do with it. He tells Lily that they are leaving, while she protests as she wanted to spend some time alone with him. But he is done with these thoughts annoying him, so he simply opens a portal and goes through it, while Alice is left puzzled about what just happened with her. When he comes back to his mansion, Sadie is already there to welcome him. He takes his mask off and hands her a small pouch filled with little grains of rice. She seems confused as she has never seen this before, but Ike tells her that this is known as rice and is far more easier to grow than wheat. She still seems confused, so he explains that currently every person in Arsenal is a farmer that grows wheat, which is notoriously hard to grow and needs a lot of men to do hard labor for it to be sold. Compared to that, rice is much easier to grow, which means that they will need less farmers and the remaining men can do other important things like becoming masons, chefs, smiths, etc. This will boost the productivity of the city and help even the poorest people in the city become middle class. Sadie is a dumb bitch and she still doesn't understand, so Ike tells her that they will have more food which they will sell for more money. She finally understands the concept and asks whether he knows how to cook it. Ike looks at her and claims he has no idea how to do it, and that's why he gives her the duty to try different ways to cook this grain, so that they can use it instead of wheat as the primary food. After dealing with that, he commands Piggy to assemble his forces and goes outside to meet them in the evening. The Piggy has no idea what is Ike's intention to calling the entire army for a meeting. It turns out that the arrow that was used to shoot him belonged to the enemies, but he clearly knows that the enemy commander Alice had nothing to do with it. This can mean only one thing, which is that he has a spy in his own army. He decides to use his mind-reading ability to check what each and every soldier is thinking, while the Piggy keeps simping over how cool Ike is. He ends up locating one of the demons who starts sweating and worrying whether his cover is blown. So Ike immediately teleports in front of him and asks whether he is the spy. He extracts information out of the spy and goes on to meet with Saphiro at night. He tells her that he has found a traitor in their army, and she casually asks who it is while taking a bath. He tells her that the traitor is the veteran one-eyed goblin called Jace, who is second in command of the 7th Battalion. He claims that the Goblins is a war-tested commander who is smart as well, and asks Saphiro what needs to be done. She casually walks out and tells him that they need to make him pay a price for his treason. The next morning, he goes over into Jace's territory to have a conversation which scares the shit out of Jace, who realizes that he has been caught. Ike asks to have a meeting alone with the goblin, but Jace brings more or less an army of goblins to meet with him. Ike tells Jace that he knows about his treason and is here to deliver justice, but Jace simply makes fun of him for being dumb enough to come here alone after knowing about him. He tells Ike that his army is twice the size of Ike's army and tells him that all his soldiers will pounce at him immediately if he gives the order. Ike laughs and asks that he was anticipating something like this, which confuses the goblin commander when suddenly they hear an explosion. Jace turns around to see huge balls of fire coming down from the sky all over the city, which puts them in a frenzy as they all try to run away in different directions. This turns out to be the work of Saphiro, who has enough magic power to turn an entire city to dust as she keeps hurling down hellfire upon the goblins. Ike runs and hides behind a building, thinking that she should go easy on the buildings as they will have to rebuild it anyways, but Saphiro doesn't care and keeps blasting them away. She then sends her own skeleton army to deal with the cleanup and finish any and all traitors remaining, while Ike appears behind Jace and gives him two options, asking whether he will die a traitor or surrender as a traitor. Jace doesn't seem too keen on any of the options, so he orders his troops to attack Ike, but obviously they are no match for him as he effortlessly beats them one by one. Jace takes advantage of this and starts running on top of the roofs, when a giant demon stops him and tries to punch, but Jace dodges the blow before using a smoke grenade to disappear from the building before using a portal to escape out into the forest. He turns around to see the destruction and vows to destroy Saphiro, before walking away, but a fireball on his ass blasts him to the ground. He turns around to see Ike, who followed him all the way here, while he tells Jace to simply surrender. Angry that a brigade commander is giving orders to him, Jace lunges ahead with a punch, only to get easily blocked by Ike, who tells him that resistance is futile. Ike then uses his wind magic to blast him into a tree, before using binding magic to completely trap him. Jace finally realizes that there is no way he could win against this guy, so instead he employs a different strategy and accepts that Ike is stronger than him, before putting a proposal in front of him. He claims that all this while the demons have been fighting against the humans, while the Demon Queen is simply chilling in her castle doing nothing. He tells him that both of them together should overthrow the queen and take control of all the forces. This misogynistic ass doesn't know that it's 2024 and goes on to say that the queen is too emotional and doesn't let them kill humans as much as they want, so both him and Ike should join forces and destroy the humans once and for all. Ike obviously refuses, after which Jace tries a last-ditch effort to throw a knife at him, which Ike dodges lazily. He asks Jace who else is taking part in his treason, but he doesn't reply. Suddenly, Sephiroth arrives at the scene and starts ripping Jace apart, as she interrogates him for information. Ike tries to use a healing spell, but it fails as Sephiroth tells him that the poison seems to be very strong. She asks him to give him the names and promises to avenge his death, but just before he could say the name, he ends up dying. Ike feels bad for the traitor, while Sephiroth tells him to stop being a girly little bitch and grow a pair as she walks away from the corpse. Later that night, both Ike and Sephiroth head up to the Demon King castle to meet up with Dai, who asks what the hell is happening. Sephiroth ended up figuring out the traitor's name and tells Dai that the traitor is Bass, the commander of the 2nd Battalion. Dai asks whether she has any proof, and Sephiroth claims that her vice commander ended up defaulting and tried killing Ike so he can slowly gain control over the 7th Battalion and dethrone the Demon Queen. Dai slowly raises her eyes up and looks behind them, asking what Bass has to say about himself. Suddenly Ike turns around, only to realize that the huge knight without a head standing behind them is none other than the 2nd Battalion commander named Bass. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, and check out this brand new anime about magicless loser who decides to use his sword to become the most powerful hero in a world of magic.